Everybody loves Kirby. He's just a small blob of a dude that eats cake, apples, people, and fights literal gods trying to take over the world. He's been in Black and White, he's been Yarn, he's been a Gundam character, he's been Clay, he's been a ball of obesity. Kirby is one of few video game characters that can be anything and still feel true to his series. And that began in 1992 with Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. I'm a big fan of the Kirby series, with Superstar Ultra and Squeak Squad on the DS being some of my favorite games from my childhood. Nintendo is continuing to give this character a lot of love, and it's fully deserved. These have always been super chill games to play for all age groups, and it's about time that I start reviewing this series that had such humble beginnings on the Game Boy. I've actually played Kirby's Dream Land before on the 3DS, and I even uploaded a wonderful Let's Play that I beg of you not to watch since it's so awful. It's a very short game with not much to discuss, so this will be a quick review. After the beast that was Metroid Zero mission, and the amount that I struggled to put that video together, I feel that I've earned the right to make a short video. So let's get to it. This game is so old that Kirby didn't even have color yet. His ass was whiter than the people who like Safe and Sound by Capital Cities. That's me, I like that song. Pristine presentation obviously wasn't a main goal for the developers, and it's not like the Game Boy allowed for much in that department either, so I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. Also ignore the fact that I'm playing the Game Boy Color version where Kirby is pink, because he's supposed to be black and white and this is all that the Nintendo Switch Online version had. I mean, just look at this box art. I never had an issue distinguishing an enemy from the environment, which is my criteria for whether the visuals are serviceable or not. The enemy sprites are all unique, without having multiple enemies that look the same, with the only difference being their color. Sometimes that may be too much to ask of older games, but Kirby was already ahead of its time, so I can't complain. The soundtrack is iconic and instantly recognizable to any modern Kirby fan. These songs have been remixed to hell and back so many times that it's weird to think that they started on this short little game for the Game Boy. Oh, how times have changed. Comparing modern Kirby games to what they started as is a very interesting contrast. Kirby's Dream Land did not feature any copy abilities, one of the defining characteristics of this franchise. This game is as simple as jumping, floating, and swallowing enemies. There isn't much nuance to this gameplay, which is okay for a short game like this. You have the option to spit enemies back out instead of completely swallowing them for an offensive ability. It's also the only way bosses are damaged in this game. Floating allows for bypassing a lot of ground enemies, but is slow to maneuver around flying ones. There are some secrets hidden in these levels, but they usually aren't difficult to find and only contain health pickups or extra lives. All of these gameplay features give a decent variety of options for tackling an otherwise purely linear game, and it's a core component that will be expanded on and become a large part of why modern Kirby games are so appealing. It's a series for new and veteran players with lots of ways to play, and you really can't go wrong with that. The game is divided into 5 main levels, each with unique environments and a boss at the end. Green Greens is as basic as it gets. You've got your grassy plains, the forest with children throwing bombs at you, the inside of a tree, and a tree itself that tries to kill you by dropping apples on you. Just your typical day in Dreamland. Castle Lololo is a maze-like interior space with mummy heads, bats, and Boo on LSD. The mini-boss of this level is a shorter version of the main boss, which is 2 dudes named Lololo and La, who push around the souls of the damned in boxes. Float Islands is a tropical level with large caverns, a pirate ship, and fighting an airship in the clouds, because why not at this point? Bubbly Clouds has lots of clouds, outer space, and what appears to be Roman architecture? Krako is the boss here, not really doing anything and being easily avoidable by staying on the opposite side of the arena from him. Mount DDD is the final mission, taking place in King DDD's castle. It's a rematch against each of the bosses, all of which remain unchanged from your first encounter with them. Then you're on to DDD himself, and man, this fight is so slow. 2 of his attacks, falling over and inhaling, cannot be counterattacked to deal damage, and the other 2, his hammer and his DD dunk, are so very slow. You're basically just twiddling your thumbs, hopping from one side of the stage to the other, praying that he'll do one of the attacks you can counter. Your speed in this fight is entirely dependent on what attacks he decides to do, which I have never enjoyed in any video game ever. Landing the final hit against his large health bar will launch King DDD halfway to Siberia, and you return all of the food to Dreamland with Kirby the hot air balloon.
I don't want to do this no more.
And that's the end of Kirby's first adventure. If you haven't played this game before, then you might be thinking that it sounds really short. Well, you'd be right. This game is easily beatable within 30 minutes going at a casual pace. It's so short, in fact, that future Kirby games have actually taken this first game and condensed into a side mode for beginners. After completing the game for the first time, you will unlock an additional hard mode called Extra Mode. This difficulty features the same levels but with harder enemies and higher numbers, harder bosses, and Kirby taking more damage from certain attacks. It's considerably more difficult than the base game, and I found myself playing much more cautiously than I ever would in the normal mode. Enemies move much faster than I could react to if I rushed forwards, so I had to move a few steps at a time and carry previous enemies in my mouth to have offensive options. And the bosses are on a whole other level. They have way more attacks in comparison, and move like they've taken copious amounts of skooma. Wispy Woods now drops both apples and Gordos, which deal 3 chunks of health on hard mode by the way, and he shoots at a stupid fast wind attack. Lololo and Lololo are basically the same but move faster. The mini boss of this level has more changes. The Hindenburg blimp now zooms around launching spread shots like it's a flying boss from Cuphead. This guy was a major pain in my ass every time and frequently took all of my lives. Krako now remains in the center of the arena with a new charge attack and larger beam. I avoided him pretty easily by remaining in one corner and quickly reacting to his charge attacks. New DDD is a menace, giving you little recovery time between his attacks due to everything coming out so fast. His inhale whips out faster than the Texas Ranger with his big iron and has a surprising amount of range to it. His jump attack can continue for multiple jumps, even going off screen, which is awkward to counter. Overall, I think it's actually a pretty fun boss, and I enjoyed learning how to effectively dodge each attack as I got a little better with each attempt. Kirby's Dream Land is a pretty chill game that almost anyone can enjoy. It's a solid introduction to the Kirby series, with a lot of the most iconic aspects of the series originating in this game. After Metroid Zero Mission was such a long video, it was nice to look at a shorter game in a series that I've been playing since I was a kid. I'm a massive fan of these games, and I always look forward to new releases. And likewise, I'll be looking forward to playing the next game where I finally get copy abilities. But until then, thank you for watching.